American countries who have this kind of benefit. And not only this, there is some Asian countries such as India who have this kind of benefits. Okay, now let's focus in the case of Italy. Italy was one of the first countries that have implemented this benefit. Here, I show a map of Movimento 5 Stelle. Why this party is important? This party was founded in 2008 with the only goal to abolish the life pension. It was founded by a comedian, but this party get relevance in the following year. In fact, that is the result of the Movimento 5 Stelle in 2018 election. The outcome is that Movimento 5 Stelle was the most voted party from in the center and the south of Italy, and it was the second most voted of party in the north of Italy. The public opinion is increasingly aware of the politician benefit, and in the most of the cases, they believe are that life pension it is an abusive privilege that make parliamentarian lazy. I try to go beyond this simplistic argument by analyzing what is the effect of the life pension on parliamentarian effort. That is a first paper of a more wide project because I want to analyze other aspects that are so relevant, such as what is the effect of the life pension on politician selection. Okay. My main motivation after this image, it is the politician benefit had been an increasingly hotly debate. There is a lot of populist parties. For example, in the case of Spain, it is Podemos. In the case of Italy, is Movimento 5 Stelle. But we have a lot of parties that have risen during the last 10 years due to their criticism to the politician benefits. The access to an exclusive pension scheme for parliamentarians has been one of the most widely used benefits in developed countries. It's also so implemented in developing countries. And there is an increasing concern about what is an adequate compensation for politicians to try to maximize their effort. I want to analyze if the life pension, it could be a useful tool to maximize their effort, or as the populist claims, it is a really bad tool, and the only thing that they did is it is an abusive privilege that makes politicians more lazy. Okay. This paper have tried to join three branches of the literature. The first branch is how we can improve politician performance. There is some agreement that say that higher salary attracts better candidates and they perform better. There is also some results that are a little bit mixed. After, there is another paper, such as the Dalbo and Rossi paper published in Review of Economic Study, that say that greater stability improve the politician performance. They analyze how the term length affect the politician performance. The late branch is how the outside option affect to the politician performance. There is two main papers who have analyzed the case of Italy in the case of Gagliarducci et al. In 2010, and Arnold and his co-author in 2014. And they find that higher is the outside option, lower is the performance.
I'm sorry. Sorry,
Yes.
I have a question. Are you going to tell us about how important this the size of this benefit is? I mean, as compared to salaries, or in general, the amount of pension given to ex-parliamentary people? I mean, how important this question is that you're analyzing? Do you have any statistics later on, or?
Okay, I'm going to give you a highlight first. In the case of Italy, that is the case I'm going to study, you start with 1 day in the parliament, you receive 30% of your salary for the rest of your life. And every year in the office, you increase 2.75 up to reach 85% of your last salary. Taking into account that politician wages are well above of the average in the most of the countries, it is a good pension. Something that it is important is that there is 2 points why the life pension could be shown such as a privilege. First is the quantity that you are going to receive is much higher, and after is the number of years of work that you need to reach the maximum. When an average worker needs 40 years, a politician only needs 20 or even less. There is some variability depending on the countries, but in the most of the countries, the lower life pension, now I'm talking about the maximum pension. The lower one, it is around 70% of the last salary. It is a huge amount. In the case of Italy that I'm going to study, the cost for a legislature is 1,000 million of euros, only focus on life pension for former parliamentarian. Okay.
Thank you.
The preview of the result is, I find that there is a link between, the preview of the result is that I find a positive effect of the life pension, but this effect is decreasing in seniority and eligibility. Seniority is given by the number of years of service, and eligibility is given by the age. If parliamentarian is above 60, he could receive the life pension immediately. If the parliamentarian is below 60, he have to wait up to this age. After the most senior parliamentarian, we find two groups. The most senior eligible parliamentarian that are parliamentarian above 60 with high seniority decrease the level of effort, while the rest of parliamentarian maintain or increase it. But I try to go a little bit further, analyzing another characteristic linked to the constituencies. I analyze distance and price level, and I find a decreasing effect in the case of distance, and in the case of price level, there is like they exaggerate the effect in both sides for parliamentarian from low price district, and they dim the effect in the case of parliamentarians who come from high price district. Okay. The contribution of this paper is that I show a link between the introduction of the life pension and the parliamentarian effort. I find that the life pension, it is a useful tool, but it is important to create the proper mechanism design, because we are going to see that there is two opposing forces. Aligned with the previous literature, what I find is that higher is the outside option, lower is going to be the impact of the life pension. Okay. Now I'm going to explain the theoretical framework. For this, I need to highlight the two main features of the life pension around the world. First, the amount of the life pension is given by the number of years of service. The maximum pension could be reached in 10 years or 25 years, depending on each country. And after, eligibility is determined by age. And after, there is another way to become eligible, is in the case of Italy, is have served for 3 full terms. If, for example, one parliamentarian with 20 years served for 3 full terms, at 35, he could get the life pension. Okay. Here I'm going to present a 3-period model. In the first period model, the parliamentarian choose the level of effort and receive a wage. exert effort is going to have two main implications. First, effort is costly, and this cost is given by the cost function CE, and effort increase the probability of re-election. Higher is the effort, higher is the probability to being re-elected. In the second period, with probability rho, the parliamentarian is re-elected and receives the salary, and with probability 1 minus rho, the parliamentarian is not re-elected and may or may not receive the life pension depending on 3 parameters. The first parameter is the presence of the life pension scheme, theta. Theta is equal to 1 if the life pension was introduced and 0 otherwise. After the age eligibility, that is, if parliamentarian is above 60, he could receive, otherwise he has to wait. And the level of accumulated pension, that is ranged from 0 to 1. 1 will be the maximum pension. And in the second period, in the third period, all parliamentarians retire. Under a life pension scheme, parliamentarians receive the accumulated pension depending. That will be why in period 3, rho multiplies theta. He received full pension. And if the parliamentarian was not re-elected in the second period, he's going to receive the accumulated pension if the life pension is implemented. Okay. The third proposition says...
excuse me, can I have a question, please?
Yeah,
yes.
Based on your model, the effort of the politicians only increases his or her re-election probabilities, but does not affect the public welfare. And if I wanted to contrast the predictions of your model with the reality or some kind of empirically measurable thing, then what should I think about the effort of a politician? How to measure it or why it is important? Because right now you are just talking about the effort of politicians to re-elect themselves and not their ability or I don't know, or whatever. Did I make sense?
Yes, yes, that is a really good point. Something that I did is to see if those parliamentarians who increase the level, those parliamentarians who have higher impact of the life pension have higher probability of being re-elected. The correlation, it is positive. But it is true that there is a lack in the literature because there is no work that tries to analyze how the parliamentarian effort affect the probability of re-election. About the other point, how the parliamentarian effort affects the welfare, the public welfare, that is another lack in the literature. I will be happy to being able to address this question with a measure. In our case, we take effort such as the literature have done: number of intervention, number of bills proposed, and number of bills accepted. If you have any comment or you think that you could have any idea to address that question, I will be happy to hear it.
No, I don't have any idea. That's why I asked it.
Yes, yes, but up to now, the literature have these lacks.
Okay, thanks.
I have another question on this.
Yes.
As I understand now, your opportunity cost for politicians, or so basically you assume that after so your control is a life pension scheme when they don't receive anything. However, in real life, probably so it shouldn't be this opportunity cost be the normal pension that everyday people receive. So basically, they could have worked and earned money and then receive some pension, just not this high as politicians. So why is this theta is equal 0 a good assumption? Okay.
In the theoretical framework, I take 0 for the only reason that makes the model more tractable. In the empirical part, what you say is true, but the good point of the Italian context, of the introduction of the Italian context, is that life pension was introduced in the middle of legislature. there is the same people that are before of the introduction of the life pension, I am going to analyze after the introduction of the life pension. Then in that case, the outside option, the previous outside option is going to be the same.
Going to be the same, meaning that they receive no everyday salary or they receive none? What I didn't get this. So what was the?
If
they are, what do they receive?
They receive their salary
and no pension.
And no pension. No pension. They receive the average pension based on the average worker.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But
okay,
the point is that after with the pension, that they don't have this exclusion condition. They could get both pension.
Ah, okay, okay.
Italian parliamentarians are so generous for they have a really generous package. They don't have to renounce to the previous pension. No. If in that case the analysis will be much more difficult.
Hold on. But so let's assume that I'm working as a professor at the university, and suddenly I'm elected as the member of the parliament, and then I quit this university professorship. I go to the parliament and be there for 4 years. I earn some money there, and I also get this lifetime pension or whatever.
Yes.
And in addition to this, the money I earn while I'm at the parliament, I also receive the normal pension. Or during these 4 years, I only receive this parliamentary, this extra pension. So do I receive this 4 year? Do I receive both or just the parliamentary?
No, during you are in the parliament, you receive the salary. The pension will be when you leave the parliament.
I understand, but I still earn money, and while I'm earning money, that goes into my, at least in Hungary, I'm compiling. András knows this, the English terms for this better. So I'm 4 years more experienced, hence I earn more salary or what is it, pension later on, because I've spent 4 years in the labor market.
Okay. Yes. Yes, I see. But you don't accumulate. In the case that you are in the parliament, my empirical analysis in 1955. All the social security or social welfare was in a preliminary stage. I'm not working in 2 days. Then the pension benefits were quite low in the case of Italy in that period. Then what you are getting is much higher than what you are going to accumulate if you are working as a professor.
I understand that, yeah.
Because with 1 day in the parliament, you are entitled to receive 30% of your salary. With 1 day. In fact, there is in 1975, there is 2 parliamentarians that stay in the parliament only for 1 week.
Okay, carry on. I'll probably do it clearer later.
Okay. Okay. The first proposition says if theta goes from 0 to 1, that means a pension scheme is introduced, the effect on effort is decreasing in the level of accumulation, alpha, and decreasing in eligibility, psi. Such an effect is negative if psi is equal to 1 and alpha is higher than this value, and non-negative otherwise. I'm going to explain a little bit. I think that it is easier to understand. Here we split our sample between parliamentarians that are eligible and parliamentarians that are not eligible. Blue line refers to parliamentarians that are not eligible, and red line show the non-eligible. Here, in the x-axis, we have the seniority from 0 to 1. What we see is the impact of the life pension. It is positive for all the range of seniority for non-eligible parliamentarian. But in the case of eligible parliamentarian, they face a trade-off between enjoy the life pension or accumulate higher pension. That means when the incentive to enjoy the life pension is higher than the incentive to accumulate higher pension, they are going to decrease the level of effort. The dashed line mark the point 0.5. When they reach the seniority equal to 0.5, they are going to decrease the level of effort. Okay? Up to now, it is clear? Yep. Okay, now I'm going to introduce two characteristics that I think that are quite important. The literature has shown that there is some selection effects based on the district in the distance. I'm going to include two new characteristics for each parliamentarian: the distance from the constituency of origin to the parliament and the price level of the constituency of origin. The reason why I include the distance from the constituency is because parliamentarians from more distant constituency face a different cost. They face a higher cost for taking the office. For example, we could think about the accommodation, transport, or time cost. The increased cost is given by this function, KD. And the case of the price level is, I did an assumption. This assumption is that all parliamentarians enjoy the life pension in their constituency of origin. In that case, what we are going to see with the price level is different in the generosity of the life pension. If, for example, we think in one low price district, if I endow with the same quantity to high price district, in that case, the life pension is more generous for low price, because in the most of the cases, the life pension, it is nominal. They pay 5,000 euros for, irrespective you come from a high price district or a low price district. The price level of each constituency is given by pi, and I normalize pi equal to 1 as the price level where the parliament is located. In the case of Italy, it will be Rome, okay? And that is the new utility function, okay? In that case, the proposition says that if the pension scheme is introduced, the effect on effort is decreasing in D and is increasing in pi if psi is equal to 1 and alpha is higher than the value, and decreasing otherwise. Again, I'm going to try to explain better with a figure. I'm going to focus on the price level district and ineligible parliamentarian. What we see in the red line are parliamentarians who come from low price district. The blue line from medium price district, and the green line high price district. What we see, while the impact of parliamentarian, it is positive, that is when seniority is lower than 0.5, the people from low price district, parliamentarian from low price district, they perform much better. They are going to react because their incentive to accumulate is higher than the incentive from a parliamentarian that come from high price district. But when we go from values from value of seniority from 0.5 to 1, we see the opposite. That means parliamentarian from low price district, they perform much worse. The decrease is much higher than parliamentarian from high price district. That means once the force to enjoy the parliamentarian, enjoy the life pension is higher than the force to accumulate high pension, that makes that parliamentarian from low price district, they are going to decrease a lot their performance. Okay. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the life pension in Italy. The life pension in Italy was introduced in January 1955, after its approval in 23 of December in 1954. It applied to all parliamentarians, but we are going to exploit the difference between them. After, there had been several reforms. The first reform was in 1997, but the most noticeable reform was in 2011, where the life pension was abolished for new parliamentarians, and in 2018 there is a huge restructuration that affects the former parliamentarian. In 2018, there is 2,600 former parliamentarian benefit for this life pension, and the cost was around 200 million per year. With the restructuration, they save 20%, and the current cost is around 160 million per year. Okay, to give you a picture about how generous is the life pension, here we see the ratio between the life pension and the pension of an average worker. I have to stress out that the average contribution, the number year of contribution of average worker is around 40, and in the case of parliamentarian, the average seniority is around 12 years. Okay, we see huge difference. Well, in the south of Italy, this ratio is around 3, with some extreme in the case. In this case, that could reach even 5. In the north, it is this effect, this ratio is more attenuated.
Sorry, sorry.
Yes,
I might have missed this, but does the pension you receive as a politician depend on the number of years you spend in parliament, or once you are in, you get the same as everyone?
No. In the first day of parliament, you are entitled to receive 30%, and you are going to accumulate 2.75% of your last salary per year of service, up to you reach 0.85. Okay, then the seniority plays a role. Okay. Okay. In fact, it is in that slide. This. Okay, the entitlement to a life pension was granted to any parliamentarian who had served for 1 day. That means one parliamentarian that stay 1 day in the parliament, once they reach 70 years old, they are going to receive 30% of their last salary. The eligibility is given by 2 conditions. It is only needed to fulfill one of them, is being over 60 years of age or having served 3 full terms of office. As I say, right now, the amount depends on the number of years of service. The maximum pension was obtained in the 20th year of service. And here you could see how it, the quantity of the life pension, it is accumulated. Okay.
Sorry again, sorry.
Please.
Is this in percentages or what? So why 0.85 is the max? Why not 1? I'm
because
confused.
the maximum life pension is 85% of your last salary.
Oh, I see. So 85% of the full parliamentarian salary.
That is it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. As I explained in the theoretical model, the important thing is not only the presence of the life pension scheme, is the interaction between the different characteristics of parliamentarian. Here, what we exploit is the interaction of the presence of life pension and the variable of interest that could be seniority, eligibility, distance, or price level. We include a matrix of covariate, individual fixed effect. Now I will try to explain what that is important. Mut is a time fixed effect and individual specific trend. Okay. Here we have the timeline of our analysis. First, we have 174 months that cover 3 full legislature. Each legislature is 5 years, that will be 60 months, but the last 2 months are election period and there is no parliamentarian activity. As you can see, the life pension was introduced in the middle of the second legislature of the Italian Republic. We have 78 months before and 96 months later. The reason why individual fixed effect is important is to rule out those parliamentarians that were only in the first legislature or were served only in the third legislature. Because in that case, I analyzed the effect of life pension on selection of politicians, and that is not my goal in that paper. The reason why it is important to include time fixed effect is because there is some pattern of activity within the legislature. There is like a peak of activity at the start of the legislature in the first year, and after this peak decrease. Okay. I construct a database that covers 1,098 parliamentarians, and I use, according to the literature, 3 objective measures of parliamentarian effort: the number of interventions, number of bills proposed, and number of bills accepted. According to the paper of Dalbo and Rossi, in 2018, I construct a parliamentarian effort index as the average of the monthly CITA score. Now I'm going to show how the different measures evolved during the period. Here, in all the cases, in all the intervention, there is a positive trend of the activity. We see some variability. There is, for example, in the case of parliamentarian effort, we see some effort, a peak of effort in the second legislature of the Italian Republic. In the case of the intervention, there is an increasing trend of the activity during all the timeline, and after in the bills proposed and the bills accepted, I use as well. I use a specific individual trend because I want to analyze, I want to control for the increasing of the efficiency of parliamentarians.
Sorry again. What's
Yes.
what's period? What's on the x-axis?
Yes, it is a month.
Okay.
The reason why I introduce individual specific trend is because a parliamentarian gets are able to produce more when they become more senior. That is a well-studied effect in the literature. And I want to control for this. I don't want that the effect that I find in the life pension depend on the seniority of the parliamentarian. Okay. Here we have the descriptive statistic. I'm going to focus in the 3 objectives of measure. The parliamentarian intervene 2.2 intervention per month. They propose 0.4 bills per month. I have to stress out, in the case of bills proposed, one thing. In the case of Italy, when they propose a bill, there is a first signature that is the one or the most important parliamentarian who is going to propose the bills. And after, they need to get some signature. I control for this. It is important to differentiate who is the first signature and who are the second signature. After,
sorry,
yes.
Probably I missed it, or you haven't said it yet, but So interventions and bill proposed are on the individual level, or it's on the, so it's, you know who the exact guy who proposed it, and then
yes,
but then how is it possible for the bills accepted, or it's conditional on being proposed, right?
Of course, of course. In fact, only 20% of their bills proposed are accepted.
Okay.
But I know who bill. Something that is important, it is to control for what party they come. If they are in the majoritarian party, the probability of have the bills pass is much higher than if they come from a minoritarian party.
Okay, thanks.
The average seniority is 0.5, and 20% of my sample is eligible. That means that they are above 60. The average age is 48, and in 1955, 94% of the parliamentarians are male. 67% of parliamentarians hold a university degree. 45 are in the majoritarian party, and 33% were in the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly, it was a process that lasts from after the Second World War, from 1946 to 1948. Okay. Let's see the first result. I don't know how the time is going.
You have about 25 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, in this result, we see that, if you remember, is higher is the accumulated pension, lower is going to be the impact of the life pension on the parliamentarian effort. This double interaction captured this. I have three levels of seniority: those parliamentarians that are fresh parliamentarians, those parliamentarians that are once elected, and those parliamentarians that are twice elected. What we see is that higher is the seniority, lower is going to be the impact. The second coefficient of the life pension, it is positive. That is going to be the effect of the life pension on fresh parliamentarian, because they have the value of 0. And in the last two rows, we see the effect on parliamentarian that had been re-elected once. In that case, it is positive, independing on what control we include. And in the case of parliamentarian that has been re-elected twice, are negative if we use that control, or positive if we there is no effect if we use the regression without control, or with the more demanding control. Now, if we do the same analysis for eligibility, we find the same. That means is those parliamentarians that are eligible are going to register a lower effect or lower impact of the life pension. That is captured by this interaction coefficient. It is negative and significant for all the specification. And again, the life pension coefficient, it is positive. That will be the effect of the life pension on parliamentarians that are not eligible. Please, let me go back one moment to explain. Sorry for this. If we go to this graph, we are seeing the two effects. First is those parliamentarians, 0, it is when the values that are above 0 means that the impact, it is positive, and below 0, it is negative. What we see is that those parliamentarians that are non-eligible, they register or positive or non-negative effect in the case that the full seniority. But in the case of eligibility, we find the two effects. First, a positive effect for those parliamentarians with low seniority and a negative effect. What we want to capture is this graph in one regression. For this goal, I include both interaction in the same regression. I find similar values that the previous tables in the two interaction and in the life pension coefficient. Something I have to stress out that these results are important because one of my concerns when I was doing all this analysis, I thought that seniority and eligibility could be a high correlated effect. Then I was suspecting if they are the same effect and they are collecting the same. But in this regression, we find that there is two different effects. Both of them are negative and significant. But the most interesting part is the last row. In the last row, we split the sample on parliamentarians depending on their seniority and their eligibility. Parliamentarians that are freshmen and are not eligible, that were captured by this coefficient, the life pension. After, when we start to see those parliamentarians that are not eligible, that will be these two. Okay, I can. These two, we see that in the case of parliamentarians that have been re-elected once, they have a positive effect. And in the case of parliamentarians that have been re-elected twice, we find only a negative effect when we include or no control or include the less demanding control. When this control are more demanding, the effect disappears. But in the case of eligible parliamentarian, that is one of the part of the paper that I like most, is if we go those parliamentarians that have higher seniority, we find a negative effect in all the specification, with independence of what kind of control we introduce. That could be explained by the difference of the two opposing forces that I claim in the theoretical analysis. Okay. In the extension of the model, I say that there is two characteristics linked with constituency that could play a role on the impact of the life pension parliamentarian effort. First, the life pension. First, the distance. The distance has the same effect that seniority and eligibility has. The distance is measuring a number of kilometers. We see that, again, the life pension coefficient, it is negative and significant for all the specification. And in the case of distance, it is negative and significant for all the specification. That means those parliamentarians that come from more distant constituency register a lower impact of the life pension on parliamentarian effort. And finally, I'm going to go to the final analysis, is the result by price level. In the case of price level, we find that parliamentarians from low price district perform better when the effect it is positive, and perform worse when the effect of the life pension parliamentarian effort is negative. To disentangle these effects, I try to do a different regression. In that case, I'm going to create a dummy variable, negative affected, that is going to be one for eligible parliamentarian with high seniority, who effort decreased with the introduction of the life pension and zero otherwise. That will be this group of parliamentarians, this group of parliamentarians on the last row is going to have a value 1 for negative affected and 0 in the rest. In this triple interaction, I want to capture the differential effect of the price level on the impact of the life pension parliamentarian effort for parliamentarian negatively affected. I'm going to name this effect like effect 1. And after, I'm going to analyze, as the previous analysis, the double interaction between life pension and life level of price. In that case, I want to capture the differential effect of the price level on the impact of the life pension parliamentarian effort. I'm going to use the same graph that I did before to show you what I'm calculating. First, the effect 1, you see, I'm focusing in parliamentarians who decrease the level of effort after the introduction of the life pension. In that case, I expect that higher price districts are going to register a lower decrease. Then I expect that this coefficient, it is positive because it is increasing in price district. In the case of effect 2, I expect that this coefficient, it is negative because higher is the price district, lower is going to be the effect found. Lower is going to be the impact of the life pension on parliamentarian effort. Okay. Let me show the results. In the case of the triple interaction, as it was expected, I find a positive coefficient. That will mean that parliamentarians who come from high price district, within the parliamentarian who decrease the level of effort, those parliamentarians that come from low price district register a lower less negative effect than parliamentarians from low price district. If we focus in the double interaction between life pension and level of price, we see, as this was expected, a negative coefficient for all the specification. That means for parliamentarians who increase the level of effort, higher is the price district, lower is going to be the impact of the lower is going to be the impact on parliamentarian effort. Okay. After do all this analysis by using the index of parliamentarian effort, it is important to see what is the effect on each measure. I did the same analysis using the more demanding specification in each of the measure, in intervention, bills introduced, and bills accepted. I find that in the case of the interaction, have the same sign, but it's true that are less significant. While in the case of parliamentarian index, they become so significant. In that case, it is they are significant at 10% level. And in the case of bills accepted, the interaction between life pension and seniority are not significant. If we focus on the effect on this, the effect of the life pension on each group of parliamentarian, I find similar results. But there is something that it is interesting, is the negative effect is only concentrated in bills introduced. That means those parliamentarians who decrease the level of effort are going to decrease only the bills introduced. The number of interventions and the number of bills accepted are remain equal. The explanation that I think that are plausible of this is that maybe with the life pension, parliamentarians with higher seniority that are eligible could focus more on the quality of bills, because if you see the ratio between the bills accepted between bills introduced, in the case of this group, they are going to increase because it's the number of input decrease and the number of output remain equal. The ratio is going to be higher. After, something that could be another explanation is that maybe the number of intervention or make an intervention is cheaper. Then they prefer to show that they are still working in the cheaper part, but they prefer to remain to leave the more harder work. Here, there is a lot of things that could arise that are that could potentially drive the effects found. First of all, is the low variability of the variable of interest. If you think about our variable of interest, seniority, eligibility, they change. They only change if the age change from 59 to 60, and in the case of seniority, they change in between legislature. Okay, then to try to avoid that this low variability affects our result, I'm going to do the same analysis, trying to make higher time period. In that case, I use legislature level. How is I split my sample? First, I take the time 1 as the first legislature. Time 2 is the second legislature before the life pension. Time 3 is second legislature after life pension, and time 4 is the third legislature. I find similar result consistent with the previous analysis. Okay, in all the variable, the double interaction between seniority and eligibility and distance. Okay. Another point that could be and that could drive the analysis is there is some selection even within the politician. That means even those parliamentarians that have been in the second legislature, they could be run for election with different incentives. To avoid or to rule out this possibility, I restrict my sample only in legislature 2. In that case, the result remains unchanged. They are significant and negative for the 3 interaction, and it is positive for the coefficient of the life pension. Okay. Something that could be argued, and for me it was a concern, is that maybe the effect found could be explained for the time in which the life pension was introduced in the middle of the legislature. Maybe if we introduce the life pension in another period, the result could change. Then I did a placebo test. How I did this placebo? I take legislature 1 and I introduce the life pension in the same month of legislature. And what I find is no effects in the coefficient of life pension, and the interaction between life pension and seniority or eligibility or distance just disappear. Okay. Finally, I try to analyze some reputational mechanisms. Why that is a concern? Because maybe the reason why more senior or eligible parliamentarians register a lower performance is because they hold some responsibility, responsibility works And maybe they have to focus more in other kind of tasks that are not collected in my measure of effort. If, for example, if they have to organize, they have administrative tasks, that is part of the work that is not collected by my data, because my data only collect number of intervention, number of bills proposed, and number of bills accepted. Then, something that I do is I interact the life pension with the position. Position is equal to 1 if the parliamentarian, this parliamentarian, it is a ministry, or they hold some of the commission in Italy. In Italy, in that time, there is 10 commission. For the secretary of each commission, this value hold 1, and for each minister and the prime minister, they hold 1. I find no effect. Also, I analyze how the president is the constituent assembly. In that case, I want to drive the question that arose before about the skills of the parliamentarian, the difference in the skill. I could assume maybe that those parliamentarians that were present in the Constituent Assembly, they are more skilled than parliamentarians that are not in the Constituent Assembly. I find no difference. Aligned with the previous intuition about the skill, I analyze also how the possession of university degree could affect this analysis, and I find no effect. And also in the case of the incumbent, if the parliamentarian is part or not part of the ruling party. Okay, and finally, I'm going to conclude. That is a first paper of a more wide project, as I said before. Now there is, I have an ongoing project analyzing how the life pension affect the politician selection. But in that work, what I see is that, contrary to populist claim, our results show a link between parliamentarian effort and the presence of a life pension scheme. In fact, the life pension could be a useful tool, but it has certain limitation that it is important to control it. After, the introduction of the life pension scheme has a considerable impact on the parliamentarian effort. This impact is differential depending on parliamentarian characteristics. I find that this impact is decreasing in seniority and eligibility, but I try to go a little bit further, analyzing another variable, such as the distance from the constituency or the price level of constituency. I also find a differential effect. As I remarked a lot before, there is two groups of parliamentarians. I see those parliamentarians who increase or maintain the level of effort, that is the majority of parliamentarians, and there is another group that decrease the level of effort. This group are those parliamentarians above 60 that have accumulated a higher pension for that time. That is all.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions from the audience? We have a couple of minutes.
If there is any suggestion after, please write me, because I will be so happy to receive any kind of feedback. This paper is planned to be submitted in the following month. Then all the feedback, all the input, it will be really welcome.
I made some notes. I will send it to you.
Okay.
I'm thinking that how does this? So I'm not sure this contradicts the populist claims that pensions make people lazy, not necessarily, because you haven't really shown that this effort is useful, I guess. So they are just, maybe they are just you know, just drafting papers that are there to signal effort, but have no real life consequences. So it would be very nice to relate somehow this to welfare or something like that.
I completely agree. In fact, that is one the reason why I can highlight some policy implication is because this only result give me some idea, but it's true, and I'm going to put you an example about if we want to increase the effort, such as the number of intervention, number of bills proposed, that is a that could be a really dangerous situation. For example, if we go to there is one example, one anecdotal evidence in Costa Rica where they say we are going to pay in base of the number of intervention, number of bills proposed, and number of bills accepted. The kind of bills that they propose, it is a shame. They propose, for example,
Yes, exactly.
change the water brand because they have less sodium, and they receive a payment for this. I'm completely sure. The only thing that I could say about this, actually, Morelli, he's doing a work about how good the proposition, the bills are. They using in some way how the academic sector work. Most cited bills have higher quality than less cited. In fact, you could see in their web page how he's doing this in the US politics. But that is, I think that we have to research a lot on this.
My suggestion would be rather to link this somehow to some real life outcomes from the politicians' constituencies. So, for example, if doing a bigger effort, do they deliver more to their constituents, or do they reduce unemployment or whatever?
I fully agree. I could give you some highlight, but I'm not going to give you any conclusive evidence.
No. That's the suggestion for the future.
Yes, but thank you very much.
There's also a question from Attila.
Thank you. Actually, I have a general comment, but
Yes.
before that, I would disagree with your last proposal because I think there's a very severe attribution problem. So a single member of parliament cannot really influence the unemployment rate or any welfare variables in any region. So there are so many other factors. So I think it would be really in vain to go in that direction. But I leave it to David to decide whether he wants to go in that direction or not. But I would disagree with that proposal. My general remark is that your conclusions were more carefully phrased than throughout your claims. I mean, your claims throughout the presentation, various regression models. So my main concern is that we are talking about politicians, and apparently you assumed implicitly that economic considerations are at least relevant, if not the most important ones. As I said in your conclusions, you don't say that, so it's more careful, but in certain regression models, I had that feeling that you have forgotten very important factors. So for instance, my understanding is that politicians have political goals, and and political objectives, political motivations, and those are more important than pension or salary. Unfortunately, in many countries, there are economic objectives, economic factors, economic motivations. So besides political benefits, political gains that for instance, I can feel that I've done something useful for my constituency or for the whole country. So besides that, they can have various types of favors as well. So from two angles, quite a few of your regressions are overly simplified, because on the one hand, you overemphasize the financial factors, but only parts of the financial factors, and you more or less completely disregarded the political factors, the political motivations. I don't know the Italian political system, of course, but I would doubt that any bill is the effort of an individual member of parliament. You need a team behind that, and the team is paid by your party. So my hunch is that the quality of the bills you propose depends quite heavily on your position inside your party. So your explanation is quite simplified in that, from that angle as well. Further, in Hungary, it is, again, it depends on your rank, your either formal or informal weight in the party, whether you are named as the proposer of a bill or not. So in many cases, the deputy prime minister is, in Hungary, the deputy prime minister is submitting bills around midnight. So it's quite ridiculous. So it's obvious that it is not his work. He is assigned to submit certain bills. So I wonder whether in Italy it is really the initiative of an individual member of the parliament, or it is assigned by the party leaders. But in any case, my hunch is that it strongly depends on your formal and informal position and weight, political weight in your party. I think I stop here. So let me repeat my overall comment that, or suggestion that be careful when you, perhaps even a bit more careful when you present your conclusion, and especially when you present the various details of your analysis, because obviously you can only have data, and you can only have methods to analyze a very small fraction of factors, motivations, mechanisms, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's true. I mean, some of the financial, I only analyze one of the financial incentive. The only thing that I can say about this is a measure of how accepted this parliamentarian is to including in the regression, for example, a part of the first signature that is linked with a parliamentarian. I can see from what is the percentage of the second signature that they come from their party, because in some way I could control for this kind of thing. But it's true that I have data on 1955, and that is, I try to do my best, but it's true that there is a lot of incentive that are not including in the regression. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we are somewhat over time, so thank you everyone. Thank you, David, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope to see you around.